Hey everyone, and welcome back to Daily Tuition. In this video, we're going to learn how to create this beautiful blog website from the beginning. We're going to use HTML, CSS and JavaScript to create this website. You can use this website to create your own blog and put your own content inside it. If you don't know how to use your HTML and CSS knowledge to create a beautiful website, then let me help you. We're going to create this beautiful website really from the beginning. So we're going to first create the homepage of this website. We're going to first create the navigation menu, which is completely sticky to the top. Then we're going to create this grid system. At the bottom, you have the carousel and the beautiful footer section of this website. If you just check this website is responsive or not, then you can notice this website is completely responsive. We're going to make this website completely responsive for all the devices. Just after that, we're going to create the second page, which is article.html. Here I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful article page in your website, where we have the article categories, the title, the meta section of the article, then the article thumbnail, then we have the content, the article tags, the author section of this article, the next and the previous post, all the comments of these articles, and we have the leave comment section to leave a comment in this article. So I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful article page in this website, as well as we're also going to see how to create this beautiful sidebar to this article and make all the pages completely responsive. So this is going to be a great tutorial for you to understand how to work with HTML and CSS. I'm so excited to create this complete website. Are you? Follow me to create your own blog website. So before we're getting late, let's get started. So let's get started and see how to create this beautiful website from scratch. So I'm going to open the Visual Studio Code editor and I'm going to open an empty folder inside it. You are free to choose any editor to create this website, that's upon you, but Visual Studio Code is more popular and my favorite. So I'm going to use this editor to create this blog. So I'm going to create here an asset folder where I'm going to put all the images of this website. So I'm going to click on this new folder icon and specify the name for this folder. I'm going to say assets. In this asset, I'm going to put all the images which we are going to use in this website. Just after that, inside this tutorial, I'm going to create a new file called index.html. And then I'm going to style this index.html with style.css file. So let me create that file as well. I'm going to click on this new file and say here style.css. Now I'm going to style this index.html using this style.css file. So let me just back to my index.html and create a simple HTML5 snippet. So in Visual Studio Code, if you want to create a simple snippet, just specify here exclamation mark and press enter. So let me just change this title and I'm going to say here gritty blog. This is the name of my website. If you want, you can change this title as well. That's upon you. And then down here, I'm going to create here one heading tag. And here I'm going to specify the name of this website, which is gritty. Save the changes. And now let me just open this website in my browser. I'm using live server extension to execute this file in the browser. So let me just click on this extension and let me show you that extension first. So I'm going to just search here for live server. When you search it, you can notice here you have here a live server extension. Just click on it and install this live server extension in your Visual Studio Code editor. This extension will launch a development local server with live reload feature. So whenever you make any changes in your index.html or style.css file, this will automatically restart your server and instantly you will get your changes. So you just need to install this extension. I already have it, so I'm not going to install it again. Let me just close this tab and back to my Explorer. And let me open this file in the live server. So I'm going to right click here and say open with live server. You can notice here I have an option open with live server, and you can notice at the bottom of your Visual Studio Code editor you have the go live as well. Just click on it. This will open this index file in your default browser. I'm using Google Chrome browser and here I have the development server and my index.html file. If I just close this and if I say here gritty template, when I save the changes, you can notice this will restart the server and I'm going to have my changes here. So that's super easy, right? Just out of that, let me just open my finished website in the live server and then we'll start developing this beautiful website. So once I open the finished website, I'm going to create these beautiful sections of this website step by step. So let's start with the header section of this website. So I'm going to first create the header, then I'm going to move to the main section of this website, and then we'll move to the footer of this website. So let's start with the header section of this website. So let's start with the header of this website. In this header, I'm going to first create the brand name. Then I'm going to have the navigation items. And then I'm going to have here the search icon and some social icons. I'm going to show you how to make this sticky header and make this header completely responsive. So let me just back to my project and toggle this window on the right side of the screen. So you will see everything clearly. Just after that, let me open this greedy block and back to my website. Now here, I'm going to create the header. So I'm going to get rid of this h1 heading tag and save the changes. Inside this body, I'm going to first create the header of this website. So I'm going to first create here a comment. So I'm going to create here HTML5 command just like this. If you're using Visual Studio Code Editor, you don't need to type this syntax. You just need to press Ctrl//. This will automatically create this command syntax for you. So once I have this syntax, I'm going to say here header. Just after that, let me just copy this and paste it down here to indicate this is the closing header. So I'm going to specify here dot. This indicate this is the closing header section, right? This is only for the documentation purpose. If you skip this command, that's completely fine. Here, I'm going to create a division tag. In Visual Studio Code Editor, you don't need to type here angle bracket and then specify div and then close it. Or if you want to create here h1 heading tag, then you don't need to specify here angle bracket, then specify h1 and then close it. If you want to create this h1 heading tag, you just need to say here h1 and press tab or enter. This will create h1 heading tag for you. And then if you want to specify class to it, you don't need to specify here class and then specify here class name. Instead, you just need to specify here h1 dot class name. When you press tab, you will have h1 heading tag with the class name. This is super easy to create element in Visual Studio Code Editor. Now suppose you want to specify multiple classes to the paragraph. You just need to say here p dot margin. And you also want to add another class to this paragraph. I'm going to say here auto. When I press tab, I'm going to have two classes to this paragraph, margin and auto. So it's super easy to specify classes to the element in Visual Studio Code Editor. Now suppose you want to specify ID to the section tag. To do that, you just need to say here section hash and then specify your ID name. When you press tab, this will create a section tag with the ID name. Just for that, if you want to specify ID as well as class to the element, you can simply specify that as well. So I'm going to just show you that syntax. You just need to specify first the element. So I'm going to create here element aside. I want to first specify ID to it. I'm going to specify here hash, then specify here sidebar, which is the ID of this aside tag. And then I want to add class to it. So I'm going to specify class para. When I press tab, as you can notice, this will create a side tag with ID sidebar and class para. So this is how you can simply create different elements in Visual Studio Code Editor. You can see me doing this throughout this tutorial. Let me create here a division tag. Division tag is the default tag in Visual Studio Code Editor. So you don't need to specify here div and then specify class name to it. If you just say here dot and class name, and when you press tab or enter, it will automatically create a division tag with that class name. So division tag is the default tag in Visual Studio Code Editor. So let's get started and see how to create this beautiful header section. So I'm going to first create here a header tag. So here I'm going to say header. This is the HTML element header, and then I'm going to specify ID to it. So I'm going to specify here hash. ID is going to be header, as well as I'm going to specify two classes to this header tag. So I'm going to specify here dot, then specify my class name shadow, as well as I'm going to add bg light class. When I press tab, you can notice I'm going to have the header tag with ID and class. The ID is going to be header and class is going to be shadow and bg light. I'm going to specify styling to these classes after a few minutes. Let me first complete this header section. So inside this header, I'm going to create a nav tag and specify class to it. The class name is container and navbar. You can notice to create two classes, I'm using dot here. When I press tab, I'm going to have two classes here, container and nav. Make sure you have space between both these classes. Just for that, inside this nav, right here, I'm going to specify my website title. So here I'm going to add anchor tag. So I'm going to say here A and specify class to it. So I'm going to first create here an anchor tag. When I press tab, this will create anchor tag with href attribute. Here I'm going to specify the current index.html file. So I'm going to specify here / index.html like this, and then I'm going to specify class here, which is now brand and text dark. Now I'm going to specify two classes to this anchor tag. I will show you how to create these classes after a few minutes. Inside this anchor tag, I'm going to specify name for this website. Here I'm going to specify name greedy. I'm going to save these changes. When I save it, you can see we have here a greedy text. Just out that, just down here, I'm going to create here my collapsible navigation items. So I'm going to create here a simple HTML5 command and say collapse on toggle button click. When I click on the toggle button, I want to collapse this section. So I'm going to create here a command, and I'm going to create here a division tag with the class collapse. When I click on the toggle button, I want to collapse this division tag. So I'm going to specify here comment for that. Just out of that, inside this div, I'm going to create a UL tag unordered list with the class navbar now. You are free to specify any class name to these sections, but make sure you specify that class when you add style to it. Just out of that, inside this UL tag, here I'm going to create anchor tag with the class now link. You can notice how the anchor tag looks like down here. When I press tab, this will create an anchor tag with the class now link. Let me specify here hash, and inside this anchor tag, I'm going to specify the first now item, which is home. Save the changes. I'm going to have home here. Just out of that, just duplicate these anchor tags by pressing Shift, Alt, and down arrow like this, and change this home. And I'm going to say here blog, then change this to pages. This became categories, and this became about. And then I'm going to duplicate this again and specify here contact. Save the changes. I'm going to have all my links here. Now, just out of that, I'm going to just copy this comment and paste it just out of this division tag right here, because I want to create another collapsible division tag. So I'm going to copy this comment and paste it down here and create another collapsible division tag. So I'm going to create here a division tag with the class collapse. I'm going to specify here UL tag with the class navbar now. I'm going to specify the same class to this UL as well. And inside this UL tag, I'm going to add the search icon and some social icons. But first, let me get these icons from Font Awesome website. I'm using Font Awesome website to get these icons. So I'm going to open a new tab and search for Font Awesome CDN. I'm going to search for it and click on this cdnjs.com. I'm going to copy this all main.css file, copy this link tag, and specify that at the top right here inside the header section of this website. Just out of this title, here I'm going to create HTML5 command and say Font Awesome icons CDN. So here I'm going to paste that link like this. So this will just specify a link tag with the href attribute, and using this you can access the icons from the Font Awesome website. Let me just save the changes and let me open the Font Awesome website. I'm going to click on this link fontawesome.com. So once this website is open, let me click on these icons. From this website you can get free and paid icons. I'm using free icons, and here I'm going to first search for the search icon. Here you can notice I'm going to have this search icon. Let me just click on it. So once you click on this icon, you will have the result something like this. Here you can get this icon and import that in your website. This is the HTML element. You can copy it. I'm going to specify that like this. Save the changes, back to the website, and here you can notice I'm going to have that icon here. So these classes is going to help us to add this icon in the website. That's super easy, right? In this website, you have multiple icons to import in your website. Just search for the icon and import it using HTML element. Let me just back to my website and close this tab. Let me just open my project, and here instead of adding this icon standalone, I'm going to just add this icon inside a division tag. So here I'm going to create a division tag with the class search box. And inside this search box, I'm going to add anchor tag, and to this anchor tag, I'm going to specify class now link, and inside this anchor tag here, I'm going to paste that icon just like this. Just out of this div, I'm going to create here an anchor tag with the class now link, and here I'm going to add my second icon. I'm going to copy this I tag from here and specify that inside this anchor tag. and just change these classes to add a different icon. So here I'm going to add fab fa Facebook f. This will add a Facebook icon here inside my project. You can notice. Let me just copy this anchor tag. So I'm going to press Shift Alt down key to duplicate this line like this and change these classes. This classes is going to help us to import different icons from the font awesome website. First, I'm going to add a Facebook icon. Then I'm going to add Twitter icon. Then I'm going to add here Instagram icon. And then I'm going to add my Dribble icon like this. Save the changes. This will add all these icons in this project. And now the time is to style this header section of this website. Now, once you understand how to create this HTML structure of this header, let me show you how to style this header section. So I'm going to first back to the top, and here I'm going to first link this style.css file. So here I'm going to create HTML5 command and say here custom style.css file. And I'm going to link this file. So I'm going to say here link tag, and here in the href attribute, I'm going to specify style.css. So this command will link this style.css file to this index.html. So I can style these HTML elements using this style.css file. So I'm going to just back to the style.css, and let me show you a very easy way to create any website. I'm going to create here 3 sections of this style. I'm going to first create the root styling of this website. Then I'm going to create the global classes, and then I'm going to create the independent styling of different section. This is the very useful technique to create any HTML website. Let me show you. Here I'm going to create a command. So to create a command, I'm going to say control /. This will create a simple CSS command inside this file. Here I'm going to create a command and say root styling. And just out of that, down here, I'm going to create another command and say global styling. And then just out of that, here I'm going to create another command and say section styling like this. So I'm going to create 3 sections inside this style.css file. First, I'm going to create a root styling of this website. Then I'm going to create the global styling. And then I'm going to create the section styling. This is the easy way to create your HTML site and maintain it more easily. So let me first create the root styling of this website. So here I'm going to first specify body. And to this body, I'm going to specify padding, which is 0. And margin is going to be 0. And just for that, down here, I'm going to specify anchor tag. And to this anchor tag, I'm going to specify text decoration none. This will remove this border from this anchor tag when I save the changes. You can notice here. Just out of that, I want to specify box sizing to all the descendant HTML element. So down here, I'm going to add asterisk, select all the HTML element, and descendant of all that element, I'm going to specify box sizing border box. Just for that, let me just add font family. So I'm using Google font to add different font inside this website. So let me just open a new tab here and search for Google fonts. I'm going to search for it and click on this Google fonts and select my favorite fonts from here. I'm going to first select the Roboto, this font. Select this regular 400 style. Just for that, select the second font, which is DM SAS, this one. Just select the regular style. Just for that, the third font is Poppins, this one. Just select the regular style for it, regular 400. Just select the style, and here you can notice you have the selected families. Just click on this import and use this import statement to add this font inside the style.css file. So I'm going to copy this import statement back to my project, and before this command up here, I'm going to paste that import statement like this. So now I can use these fonts in my project. So let me just copy these fonts and specify that inside this command like this. So now I can use all these fonts inside this project. So let me first specify this font to the body. I'm using this font to all my elements. So I'm going to cut this font from this command and specify that right here. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this font to all my elements. In the root styling, I'm going to create some CSS variable. To create a CSS variable, just specify here colon root, and inside this root, you can create a different CSS variable. CSS variable is very helpful when working with colors. You don't need to specify the hex color whenever you want to specify color to the HTML element. You just need to specify that variable name when you want to specify color to that element. So I'm going to first create here light color variable. To create a CSS variable, you need to start the variable name with double dash like this, and then specify the variable name. I'm going to specify name light. Just out of that, specify value to this variable. So here I'm going to specify hex value. So I'm going to say here hash f8 f9 fa. So this is the hex value of this color. I'm going to specify this hex light color to this light variable. Now I can use this light variable instead of this hex value. That's super easy, right? So let me just create a few variables here inside this root selector. So I'm going to just create a few variables here inside this root selector. This is the secondary color, this is the dark color, then this is the primary theme color, this is the secondary theme color, and this is the border color of this theme. So I'm going to create a few variables here and use these variables to specify colors to my HTML element. Once I have all my website colors, let me show you how to apply this color to your HTML element. Instead of selecting the individual HTML element and specifying this color using the color property, I'm going to create a global classes and specify that color to it. Let me show you how. So down here, I have the global classes section. So here I'm going to create all the global classes of this website. So I'm going to first create a class text light. And to this text light class, I'm going to specify color, and I'm going to use this light color to this text light class. And to use this light variable, I'm going to say here var. Inside it, I'm going to specify the variable name, which is light. So when you specify this text light class to any HTML element, you will have this light color to that element. I'm going to do the same to this secondary, to this dark, and to these colors as well. So inside these global classes down here, I'm going to say text secondary, and here I'm going to specify color and specify my color, which is secondary, like this. Then I'm going to specify here class text dark. Inside it, I'm going to say color is going to be dark. Just down here, I'm going to create a class text primary and specify color, which is primary color. And just down here, I'm going to say dot bg light and specify background color is going to be light. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have light color to this navigation menu, because if you open the index.html, I have this bg light class to this header section. So I'm going to applying this global class to this header section. Now just out of that, once you understand how to work with this root styling and how to work with this global styling, let me show you how to work with this section styling. In this section styling, I'm going to specify styling to the individual section. So I'm going to first create styling for the navigation menu. So I'm going to create here a comment, and here I'm going to add navigation menu styling. So here I'm going to add a command navigation menu. Just copy this command, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing navigation menu like this. And inside this command, I'm going to specify styling to this navigation menu. So I'm going to first select this navbar class. So inside the style, I'm going to select dot navbar, and here I'm going to specify position, which is relative. Then I'm going to specify display flex. I'm going to specify flex. Direction is going to be row. This is the default direction of the flex property. Just out of that, down here I'm going to specify justify content space between. This will add space between these three sections. You can notice here I have three sections, the first, second, and third. Using this property, I'm going to add equal space between these sections. When I save the changes, you can notice this will add equal space to all these sections. Just down here, just out of this property, I'm going to add some padding to it. To this navbar, I'm going to add padding 10 pixel. Just down here, I'm going to select the navbar brand class, this one, and here I'm going to select now brand class and specify font family, and here I'm going to specify font family, this one, and DM Sass. So I'm going to cut this statement from here and specify that right here like this. Just out of that, I'm going to specify font width, which is bold, and align self is going to be center. Save the changes. This statement will vertically align this navbar. Just out of that, I'm going to specify font size. Font size is going to be 32 pixel. When I save the changes, I'm going to have the result something like this. Just out of that, down here, just down here, I'm going to create collapse class. Collapse. You can notice I have this class to this division tag. I'm going to select this class, and to this class, I'm going to specify align self center. Just down here, I'm going to create now link this class, the now link class, and then I'm going to specify here font size, which is 18 pixel. Then I'm going to specify margin, which is 12 pixel. Then specify color to it, which is dark. If you want, you can specify this dark color class as well to the anchor tag. I'm using this now link class to specify this dark color. And down here, I'm going to specify font family. So up here, I'm going to copy this font family, cut this comment from here like this, and just down here, I'm going to specify this Poppins font family to this now link. Save the changes. So I'm going to have the result something like this. Just out of that, let me just back to the index file, and here you can notice I have this container class here. I'm using this class in multiple sections, so I'm going to just specify that class in the global section up here. Just out of this BG Lite, down here, I'm going to specify container, and to this container, I'm going to specify max width is going to be 1200 pixel, and then I'm going to specify padding. Padding is going to be 0 for the top and bottom, and 15 pixel to the left and right. Then I'm going to save the changes. This will add max width to this container, and just out of that, down here, I'm going to specify margin auto. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. I have this search icon up here, so let me just align it. So in the index.html, I have this search box class, so let me just create this class. Down here inside this navigation, I'm going to create search box, and to this search box, I'm going to first specify display inline. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this icon inline. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify border right, which is 1 pixel solid, and then I'm going to use my secondary color. And just down here, I'm going to add padding right, which is 12 pixel, and margin right is going to be 10 pixel. When I save the changes, this will add this border to this search icon. Just out of that, let me just add hover effect on this now items. So just up here, I'm going to select the now link, and when I hover on it, I want to just change the color of this now item. So I'm going to select the primary color here. Save the changes. When you hover on this navigation links, you can notice you're going to have this primary color to this navigation items. Now you can notice how easy it is to create this beautiful navigation menu using HTML and CSS. But now let me just check this navigation menu is responsive or not. So I'm going to right click here and say inspect. I'm going to select this toggle device toolbar icon and then change the width of this viewport. You can notice this navigation menu is not responsive. So let me show you how to make this navigation menu responsive for all the devices. So let me show you how you can add the toggle button inside this navigation menu and make your navigation responsive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the index.html, and up here, just after this navbar brand, I'm going to create here a comment and say toggle button. Here I'm going to create a navigation toggle button. So I'm going to create here a button and specify class to it. The class is going to be toggle button, and inside this toggle button, I'm going to create a span tag, and inside this span tag, I'm going to add I tag to import icons. So here I'm going to specify class, which is fas fa bars. If you want, you can specify this class to this span tag as well to import icons inside this button. That's completely fine. I'm going to use the span tag as a wrapper to this I tag. I'm going to save the changes, and when I save it, you can notice I have this icon inside my navigation menu. Let me just style this icon. So I'm going to open the style.css. Down here, I'm going to style this icon. So as you know, I have this toggle button class to this button. Let me just use this class here and specify some style to it. So I'm going to specify font size 21 pixel. Then background color is going to be transparent. Then I'm going to specify border, which is none, and position is going to be absolute. When I specify position absolute, you can notice I'm going to have this icon at the top left corner of this window. So let me just specify position for this button. So I'm going to specify here position right 0 to this icon. You can notice here I have this icon here at the right side of the screen, and just after that down here I'm going to specify margin 8 pixel to the top and bottom and 10 pixel to the left and right. Now just after that, when I click on this toggle button, you can notice I have this outline to this button. I don't want to add this outline, so down here I'm going to select this toggle button again, and I'm going to select the focus event of this toggle button and select the outline property is going to be none. When I save the changes and click on this button, you're not going to get any outline to this button. Just after that, what I want, when the viewport is greater than 574 pixel, I want to hide this toggle button, and if the viewport is less than 574 pixel, I want to display this toggle button. To do that, I can use a media query of CSS. So you can notice here I have the viewport 574 pixel. Let me just back to my website, and down here I'm going to create here a comment and say media query, and here I'm going to create a new media query. So I'm going to say here at media. To create a media query, you need to start with the @ sign, specify media, and then specify the max width. I'm going to specify max width is going to be 574 pixel. If the viewport is less than 574 pixel, I want to apply all the style of this media. So here I'm going to specify toggle button, and inside it I'm going to specify display initial to this toggle button. But first, let me just specify here property to this toggle button, which is display none. You can notice the toggle button is gone. Just out of that, inside this media query, if the max width of this viewport is less than 574 pixel, I want to specify style to this toggle button. So here I'm going to specify display initial. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have my toggle button, and if the viewport is greater than 574, if I say here 575, this will automatically hide this toggle button. And when the viewport is less than 574, I'm going to have my toggle button here. So that's super easy to hide and unhide the toggle button. Now, just after that, let me just align this content properly. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just change the flex direction of this content when the viewport is less than 992 pixels. I'm going to just back to my website, and you can notice here to this navbar, I have flex direction row. I'm going to just change the property when the viewport is equal to 992 pixel. If the viewport is less than this, I want to just change this flex property. So down here, I'm going to create another media query. So I'm going to copy this and paste that up here like this. And the max width is going to be 992 pixel. And here I'm going to select navbar and specify flex direction column. So instead of row, I'm going to specify column here. Let me just save the changes. You can notice this will specify flex column to this division tag. Now just for that, let me just back to my 574 pixel viewport, and now let me just change the styling of this navbar. So down here, I'm going to select the collapse now link class and specify display block. When I save the changes, this will add a display block to this navigation items. Just down here, I'm going to say text align, which is center. And then just out of that, I'm going to remove this border, this right border from this search box. So I'm going to select the search box and remove this border right. So down here, I'm going to select the search box like this and say border right is going to be none. When I save the changes, this will remove the right border from the search box if the viewport is less than 574 pixel. Just out of that, what I want, when I click on this toggle button, I want to collapse these navigation items. So to do that, I'm going to first select the collapse and then specify max height is going to be 0. When I specify that, you can notice here this will just specify max height is 0 to this collapse. Then specify overflow hidden. This will hide all these icons. When I save the changes, And then I'm going to hide all this overflow content. So to do that, I'm going to say overflow hidden, save the changes, and as you can notice, this will hide all the content from this navigation menu. And now let me create a click event on this toggle button so I can collapse the division tag. Let me show you how to do it. So I'm going to use JavaScript to create this click event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file inside my project and name that file main.js. So this is the main JavaScript file of this project. So I'm going to name it main.js, and let me first link this file to the index. So down here, before the closing body section, up here I'm going to create a command and say custom JavaScript main.js file. So here I'm going to say script. In the source tag, I'm going to specify main.js. Save the changes, back to the main.js, and here I'm going to add some JavaScript code and create a click event on this toggle button. So I'm going to first select the toggle button. So I'm going to create here document.query selector, and using this query selector, I'm going to select my toggle button. So in the double quote, here I'm going to say header and select the toggle button. You can notice I'm using the CSS selector in the query selector function to select my button. So once I select that, don't forget to specify a semicolon here. Now once I've done that, I'm going to just store this toggle button in the variable. I'm going to create a variable let toggle and specify equal to sign. So this command will store this element inside this toggle button variable. Just down here, I'm going to say let collapse is equal to document.query selector all. Now I'm using here query selector all because you can notice I have two collapse class here. This is the first collapse class and this is the second one. If you have only one collapse class, you don't need to specify query selector all. Instead, you can specify here query selector. I'm using two same classes, that is why I'm using query selector all here to select both the division tag. So I'm going to say here query selector all inside the double quote. Here I'm going to say header. I'm going to first select the header and select the collapse class like this. So I'm going to store both this division tag inside this collapse class. Just after that, here I'm going to create an event. So I'm going to create an event on the toggle button. So I'm going to say here toggle dot add event listener. I'm going to add a method add event listener to create click event. So I'm going to specify the first parameter, which is the event name. I'm going to specify here click. I'm creating click event on this toggle button. So I'm going to say here click, and as a second argument, I'm going to specify the callback function. It means when I click on the button, I want to execute this function. So I'm going to specify here a function like this. So when I click on this toggle button, I want to execute this function. Inside this function, let me first print this collapse variable. Here I'm going to say console.log and print this collapse like this. Save the changes, back to my website and open the console. And now when I click on this button, you can notice this will execute this function. Here I'm going to have the node list as a response. Oops, I think I misspelled something because the length of this node list is 0. Let me just back to my website. Yeah, right here. I just misspelled the class name collapse. Back to my website and click on this toggle button. When I click on it, you can see I have the node list with 2 division tag. This will return 2 division tag with the class collapse. And now what I'm going to do is when I click on this button, I want to add class to both these division tag. So inside this console.log, here I'm going to say collapse dot for each. I'm going to use for each method to iterate over this division tag inside this for each. So here I'm going to just create a parameter call. You can name this parameter anything and then specify arrow here. I'm creating arrow function inside this for each, and then I'm going to say call dot class list dot toggle. Inside this toggle, in the parentheses, in the double quote, I'm going to say collapse toggle. So I'm going to just add this collapse toggle class to both the collapse division tag when I click on the toggle button. And as you know, I don't have this class in my CSS. So let me just create this class in the CSS file. So I'm going to just open the style.css, and down here inside this max width 574 pixel, inside this media query, I'm going to create this class. So let me just copy this class from here, and in the style.css, I'm going to create that class, and here I'm going to specify max height is going to be 500 pixel. As you know, I have max height 0 to this collapse class. So I'm going to just specify 500 pixel height to this collapse class when I click on this toggle button. So when I click on the toggle button, I want to specify 500 pixel height to both this collapse division tag using this click event. So let me just save all these files, save this style.css and save the index file. Back to the project, and now when I click on this toggle button, you can notice I'm going to have the result what I want. But now let me just add a transition to this click event. So I'm going to just back to my style.css, and inside this collapse, here I'm going to add transition property. So I'm going to say here transition and add all. I'm going to specify transition to all the collapse properties and then specify transition time, which is 0.8 second, and specify easy function. So here I'm going to specify easy in. Save the changes, and when I click on the toggle button, I'm going to have the result something like this. But now let me just change this easing function. To change this easing function, I'm going to select the collapse class. I have here a property transition. Let me just change this easing in using this editor. Let me just click on this icon, and here you can notice I can change this behavior of this easing function using this graph. I can easily change the behavior of this easing function. So I'm going to just change this easing function, copy this and specify that instead of this easing in. So I'm going to just get rid of this easing in and specify this function here. Save the changes. Let me just back to my website, and when I click on this button, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. That's super easy, right? The navigation menu is completely ready. You can notice the navigation menu is completely responsive. Next, I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful main section of this website and see how to work with the global classes to create this beautiful section and make your website responsive. So next, I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, once you understand how easy it is to create this navigation menu of this website, let's move to the next section of this website. I'm going to open my finished website, and here you can notice this is the main section of this website where I'm going to create this beautiful image grid system and make this image grid system completely responsive. So let me show you how to create this. So I'm going to just back to my website, open my project and open the index.html. So I'm going to first create this new section in the main section. So I'm going to minimize this header section, and just after this header, down here I'm going to create the main section of this website. So here I'm going to say HTML5 command and say main site. I'm going to copy this command, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing main section, and inside this command I'm going to create main tag to indicate this is the main section of this website, and I'm going to specify ID to it. So I'm going to say here hash site main is the ID of this main tag. Just after that, inside this main, I'm going to create different sections of this website. So here I'm going to first create the blog section where I'm going to have grid system of images. So here I'm going to create HTML5 command and say blog post section. I'm going to copy this command, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing blog section, and inside this blog section I'm going to create a new section with ID post. When I press enter, I'm going to have section with the ID post, and inside this section here I'm going to create a division tag with a class container, and inside this container I have my grid system. So I'm going to create a div with the class grid, and inside this grid I have a different grid items, or you can say I have a different articles. So I'm going to create here HTML5 command and say here article. I'm going to copy this command, paste it down here, and inside this article I'm going to create my different article of this website. So I'm going to wrap these articles in the division tag. So I'm going to create a div with the class grid item, and inside this grid item I have my article. So I'm going to just create here article tag and specify class to it, article. You are free to specify any class name to this article, that doesn't matter. Just after that, inside this article I'm going to create my card. So here I'm going to create division tag with the card class, and inside this card I have my image. So I'm going to first wrap this image inside a division tag so I can create hover effect on that image. So here I'm going to create a division tag with the class overflow img, and inside this overflow img I have an anchor tag, and inside this anchor tag I have my image tag. So I'm going to just specify here image. But as you know, I don't have any image inside this asset folder. So let me first copy a few images and paste that inside this folder. So I'm going to just quickly copy all these images and paste it inside this asset folder like this. So once I paste all these images, I'm going to just open my project, and here you can notice I have all these images inside this asset folder. Don't worry, you can download all these images from the link provided in the description. Just out of that, once I have all my images, let me just specify one of them inside this source attribute. So here I'm going to first specify asset, the folder name, and then specify my first image, img1.jpg. Save the changes, and you can notice here I have my image. Right now I don't have any width and height to this image, so that is why I'm having full image size on this browser. I'm going to specify height and width to this image after a few minutes. So once I specify this image, let me specify class to this image tag. So here I'm going to specify class img fluid. Just for now, just leave this division tag as it is and create the next division tag right down here. I'm going to create here another div with the class card body. Along with that, I'm going to create here a text center class, and I'm going to add padding x1 class. I'm going to create all these classes in the CSS file. Just out of that, I'm going to create here anchor tag. I'm going to leave this href attribute as it is. So I'm going to specify here hash, and in the anchor tag, here I'm going to specify title to this article. So I'm going to copy and paste some content here, and I'm going to just add some classes to it. So here I'm going to say class. First, I'm going to specify text title class. Then I'm going to specify display 1 and text dark class. Let me just save the changes, and down here I'm going to have this title. You can notice I have this title here. Just out of that, just out of this anchor tag, here I'm going to create a paragraph, and inside it I'm going to create two span tags. So in the first span tag, I'm going to add an icon. So here I'm going to say I and specify class to it, which is var fa clock. So this class will import the clock icon inside this span tag, as well as I'm going to specify a custom class to this I tag. Here I'm going to specify text primary. Just out of this I tag inside this span, here I'm going to add clock Wednesday 02 1 2021 2021. So I'm going to just add a date to this block. Just after that, I'm going to duplicate this span tag like this. Change this icon, and I'm going to say here comment like this, and specify here comments of this block. I'm going to specify 12 comment for now. Just for that, let me specify some classes to this paragraph as well. Here I'm going to specify class secondary title, then specify text secondary and display 3. So these are the classes I'm going to create in the style.css file. Let me just save the changes and back to my website. Here you can notice I have all the content down here. Now let me just style this card using style.css file. I'm going to first style these global classes, this img fluid, this display, and so on. So I'm going to first specify styling to the global classes, and then I'm going to specify individual style to this section. So I'm going to back to my style.css, and up here inside this global section, just out of this container, here I'm going to create a class img fluid. As you know, I have this class to this image. You can notice here I'm going to specify styling to this image and specify width to it, which is 100%. Save the changes. Just out of that, just down here, just out of this navigation, here I'm going to create another comment and say here main section. So here I'm going to create main styling of this website. So I'm going to copy this comment, paste it down here to indicate this is the main styling of this website, and inside it I'm going to first specify style to the site main. So I'm going to first select site main and add some margin top to it. So here I'm going to say margin top 8 em. Just out of that, once I have this margin, right here I'm going to first select the post. I'm going to specify some margin bottom to it. So here I'm going to say margin bottom, which is going to be 5 em. Just down here I'm going to add styling to this grid system. So what I'm going to do is, inside the style, I'm going to select the grid class and then specify margin 0 for the top and bottom, and auto for the left and right. Just out of that, inside this grid, I have grid item. So I'm going to select that grid item class and specify width to it. Now what I want to create 3 column layout. As you can notice here, I have 3 images here. So I want to create 3 columns inside this container. As you can notice, inside my website, I have this container, and inside this I have grid items. I want to create 3 columns inside this container. So I'm going to just divide 100 by 3. So what I'm going to do is, to this width, I'm going to specify the percentage of 100 divided by 3. I'm going to just open my calculator, and here I'm going to say 100 divide by 3. Because I want to create 3 columns, I'm going to say here 3. If you want to create 4 columns, you can specify here 4. That's upon you. When I click on this equal to sign, I'm going to have this value 33.33333. So I'm going to just specify this value to this width. So I'm going to copy this value, close this calculator, and here inside this width, I'm going to first call the calc function of CSS and specify that value in percentage. As you can notice, this will add 33% width to this grid system. Now let me just add some space between 2 items. So I'm going to just minus 20 pixel from this width. So this will just minus 20 pixel from the width. Just for that, inside this width, I'm going to add margin bottom, which is going to be 3 em. This will add bottom margin to this section. Just for that, inside the index.html, you can notice I have here class text title and text secondary. So I'm going to just create that in the global section. I'm going to open my global section right up here. I'm going to create that class. So here I'm going to say text title and specify here font family, and specify my font family DM sans. And I'm going to just specify fallback value sans serif. Just for that, font width is going to be bold. Just down here, I'm going to create second class, which is secondary title. And to the secondary title, I'm going to specify font family, which is Poppins. Don't forget to specify callback value, which is sans serif. Save the changes. This will change this font family of this title. Just down here, I'm going to create display classes. So you can notice here I have display 1 and display 2 class to this paragraph. So let me just create these classes as well. Here I'm going to create display 1. So to this display 1, I'm going to specify font size 22 pixel. Just out of that, I'm going to create another display class. So I'm going to copy this class, paste it down here, and this is the display 2 class, and the font size is going to be 16 pixel. Copy and paste this class again, and this is going to be display 3 class, and the font size is going to be 14 pixel. And here I have the result what I want. Now you can notice we have the text align left. I'm going to change it to center. So I'm going to just open my global section, and here I'm going to create a class text center, and I'm going to just specify here text align center. Save the changes. You can notice this will just change this text align, as well as I'm going to create here text right, text align right. So if I want to specify text align right, I can specify this class to that HTML element. Now as you can notice, the card is completely ready. So let me just add multiple cards inside this home section of this website. So I'm going to back to my index.html, and here I'm going to copy this grid item from this comment and paste that down here like this, and change this img1 to img2. Minimize this grid item. So here I'm going to copy this second grid and paste it down here like this, and change this img2 to img3. Save the changes. When I save the changes, you can notice I have 3 grid items, and these items are aligned vertically. Now once you understand how to add different items, let me just add few items inside this grid system. So I'm going to just add few posts inside my grid system. You can notice here I have 9 posts inside this grid system. Once I have my grid system item, let me just align it properly, and I'm going to just make this grid layout with JS library. So let's see how to do it. Now once I have my articles, you can notice all these articles are aligned vertically. Let me add here a JavaScript library called Masonry to create this beautiful grid system. This grid system is completely responsive for all the devices. Let me show you how to work with this masonry library and make this beautiful grid system with it. So I'm going to just back to my website, open my project, and here I'm going to add masonry library. So I'm going to open a new tab and search for masonry library CDN. And I'm going to just click on this cdnjs.com, this first website, and open it in a new tab. You can notice here I have the masonry.com website as well. Just click on it, and from here you can head on to the GitHub of this masonry library and check out the details of this library right from here. From here you can understand how to work with this library with jQuery and with vanilla JavaScript, as well as you can use this library with HTML as well, without any JavaScript or without any jQuery. I'm going to show you how to work with this library using vanilla JavaScript. So let me show you how to do it. I'm going to just back to my cdn.js and I'm going to copy this package, this one. I'm going to copy this script tag and paste it at the bottom of this index file. So before this main.js, right here, I'm going to create HTML5 command, and here I'm going to say masonry library for horizontal grid. Just for that, here I'm going to paste my script tag just like this. So once I link my masonry library to this index, let me just work with it. I'm going to back to the index.js, and down here I'm going to create simple command and say with masonry, and here I'm going to initialize the masonry library. So what you need to do is you just need to say here new masonry and specify parenthesis, and inside this parenthesis you need to specify the grid container. As you know, I have this grid container, this post grid container, so I'm going to specify that here. In this double quote, I'm going to specify hash post and specify my grid container. So I'm going to select this grid container, and inside this masonry library as a second argument, I'm going to specify an object, and in this object I'm going to specify some values to the masonry properties. So I'm going to first initialize the item selector property. So here I'm going to say item selector, and to this property I'm going to specify the descendant grid items. So I'm going to specify this grid item class to this item selector. So here I'm going to specify dot grid item. Just for that, I'm going to add some space between this grid item using gutter. So here I'm going to say gutter 20. So this will add 20 pixel width between these items. Save the changes and back to your website. And let me just reload this website. As you can notice, once I reload this website, I'm going to have the result what I want. This library will create this beautiful grid system for us. You can notice that's super easy, right, to create this beautiful grid system. Now just for that, once I have all my articles, let me just add here a button to load more articles. So I'm going to open my index.html, and down here, just out of this div right here inside the grid, I'm going to create here a div tag with text center class to center the descendant element, and here I'm going to say button, and I'm going to add some classes to this button. So I'm going to create this button first and specify text to it. So here I'm going to say load more post. You can notice down here I have this button. I'm going to just add some classes to it. So I'm going to say here class btn primary and secondary title, which is my global class, and as well as I'm going to add text light class. Let me just save the changes, and as you can notice, I have the result something like this. This will just add a light color to this title. Now let me add styling to this button. So let me just back to my style.css, and in the global section right here, I'm going to style this button. So here I'm going to first select the btn class btn and specify some padding to it. So I'm going to first specify padding to the top and bottom. I'm going to specify 15 pixel to the top and bottom and 20 pixel to the left and right. Then specify border none. Just after that, down here I'm going to select the btn primary class and specify border radius 4 pixel, and background color is going to be secondary. Save the changes. As you can notice, I have the button something like this. Oops, I think I misspelled the class name. Let me just back to my index.html. Yeah, right here. It's secondary. Save the changes. I have the result what I want. Now just for that, let me show you this grid system is responsive or not. Let me just inspect this website and change this viewport. When I change this viewport, you can notice this website is not completely responsive. So let me just make this website completely responsive. So let me just back to my style.css, and here I'm going to make this website responsive. Inside this media query, as you know, I have here a grid class, and using this grid item, I'm going to specify width to this grid items. Now just for that, what I want, when the viewport is less than or equal to 768 pixel, I want to just change these columns. I want to just display 2 columns here. We have 3 columns inside this grid system when the max width is equal to 768 pixel. So let me just show you how to do it. As you know, I have this media query. Let me create one more media query here for 768 pixel, and inside this media query, I'm going to just copy this class, grid item class, and paste it here. Get rid of this margin because we are not going to change it. So here I'm going to specify a calci function, and inside it I'm going to specify 50%, because as you know, I want 2 columns inside this grid system. So I'm going to specify with 50%, and I'm going to just minus 20 pixel from this width, because as you know, I have a gutter 20 pixel. So I'm going to minus that from this width. Save the changes. When I save it, I have 2 columns in my grid system. When I change this viewport, you can notice I have here 3 columns. Let me just decrease this viewport, and if the viewport is less than 768 pixel, I only have 2 columns here. Now what I want, if the viewport is less than 576 pixel, I only want 1 column. I have this 574 pixel media query. So let me just copy this class and specify that down here. And here I'm going to specify with 100%. And I'm going to just minus 20 pixel from this width, like this. Save the changes. If the viewport is less than 574 pixel, you can notice I have only 1 column inside my grid. So that's super easy, right, to create this grid system. So let me just show you the responsiveness of this grid system. When I increase the viewport, you can notice how easy it is to create this grid system responsive, right? So once you understand how to make this grid system responsive, let's move to the next section where I'm going to create this beautiful slider. So let me show you how to do it. Now once you understand how to make this main section of this website where you have this grid system, let me show you how to create this beautiful slider. So I'm going to just back to my website, and down here I'm going to add that slider. So I'm going to just back to my project and open the index.html. Let me just minimize this grid system because now I'm creating a next section of this website. So in the main section, I'm going to create HTML5 command, and here I'm going to say swiper slider. Now I'm going to add swiper library inside this project to create this beautiful slider. So I'm going to just say here swiper slider. Just copy this command, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing slider. And inside this command, here I'm going to create my section. So here I'm going to say section and specify class to it, which is slider. Inside this slider, I'm going to create a container. So here I'm going to say container, and inside this container, I have my swiper slider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Google, and here I'm going to search for swiper library CDN. I'm going to search for it, and here you can notice I have the swiper library CDN. Just open it. Let me close this unwanted tabs. And this is the swiper library CDNs. And let me open the swiperjs.com website as well. On the new tab right here, I have this website. Let me just show you how to use it. Let me first link this swiper bundles. So I'm going to just back to my swiper libraries, and here I'm going to just first link this swiper bundles. So what you need to do is you need to link 2 files to your project to work with this swiper slider. So you just need to first link the bundlemean.js file. So I'm going to copy this script tag back to my project, and here just after this masonry library right down here, I'm going to create a command and say swiper slider CDN. I'm going to paste here the script tag just like this and back to the top of this website. And here inside this header section before this style.css, right here I'm going to add the CSS file of this library. So let me just specify here a command and say swiper slider CSS file. So down here I'm going to just copy the CSS. When you scroll down, you have the CSS file as well of this website, which is swiperbundlemean.css. Let me copy this link tag, specify that in the header section of this website. That's it. Once you link this swiper library, let me just back to the website, the official website of this swiper library. Now once you open this website, you can notice here you have the instruction how to use this website in your project. I'm using the CDN, so I'm going to just link CDN. Once I link the CSS file and this script file, let me just show you how to initialize this swiper. So just down here, I have different methods to initialize this swiper in my project. So I'm going to just use a simple structure. So down here, I have the HTML layout of this slider. Let me just copy this HTML layout. So I'm going to just copy this complete HTML structure and back to my index.html, and just down here inside this container, I'm going to paste this HTML structure. Let me just align it properly. Let me just align this properly. Now once I have this structure, let me save it and back to the website, and just down here you can style this swiper like this using this container and initialize this swiper in the .js file. You can notice here you need to initialize this swiper library. So what you need to do is you need to just create here a new swiper object and initialize it with your container. I'm going to just follow all these steps. So I'm going to just back to my website and open the main.js file. And down here, I'm going to create a command and say swiper library initialization. And just down here, I'm going to say new swiper. And in the parenthesis, in the single quote, I need to specify the swiper container. If you back to the index.html, you can notice I have here swiper container. Let me just copy this and paste it in this single quote and paste it right here, just like this. Don't forget to specify dot here, and just after that, as a second argument, I can pass different values to this swiper object. So right here, I'm going to say direction. Direction is going to be horizontal. Then I'm going to specify loop, which is true. Then specify slide per view. I want to display 5 slides per view. So I'm going to say here slides per view. I want to display 5 slides on a single page. So I'm going to specify 5 here, and then I'm going to specify auto play property. This is going to be delay 3000. It means I want to slide this slider after 3 seconds. So I'm going to specify here 3000. Save the changes and back to the website. Just down here, you can notice I have this slider. Now let me just add content inside this slider and show you how to work with it. Now if you closely take a look at this slider, then you can notice you have this next and previous button, as well as you have the scroll bar at the bottom. What I want to remove this previous and next button and this scroll bar. So to do that, I'm going to just back to the index.html and I'm going to remove this pagination right from here. I don't want to add that. And as well as I'm going to remove this previous and next button as well. If you want to add previous and next button, you can leave this division tag as it is. I don't want to add any previous and next button, so I'm going to remove it. And then I don't want to add the scroll bar, so I'm going to get rid of this scroll bar as well, just like this. And inside this slider here, I'm going to create my slide. So let me get rid of these dots, and in the first slider, in the first slide right here, and here I'm going to create an anchor tag, and inside this anchor tag I'm going to add my image with source attribute. So here I'm going to select asset and select my first slider image. So if you just take a look at your image folder, then you can notice you have the slider folder. Inside it you have the image 1. Just specify that and then specify class to it. Class is going to be img fluid. When you save the changes, you can notice you have the result something like this. Let me just create few slides here. So let me just copy this anchor tag and specify that in the second slide like this. Just copy this command to indicate this is the end of the first slide, and just duplicate it like this to indicate this is the closing of the second slide. If you want, you can manually specify 1, 2, 3 to this command. That's upon you. I'm going to do the same right here as well and change this third slide, and here I'm going to paste this anchor tag just like this and change this image 1 to image 2. This became image 3. Duplicate this slide, so I'm going to copy this div, paste it down here and change this image 3 to image 4. Copy this div, paste it just down here change this image 4 to image 5. And just out of that, I'm going to paste this division tag again. And this became image 6. And paste this division tag again. And this became image 7. Save the changes. When you reload the browser, as you can notice, you have the result what you want. I have my slider. You can notice here. So that's super easy, right? To create this slider in your website. Just like that, what I want to make this slider responsive. Let me open my inspect tool and inspect this slider. When you decrease the viewport, you can notice this slider is not responsive. I want to make this slider responsive, so I'm going to just open this website, the official website of this swiper. Scroll down and click on this Go API documentation, and right from here you can find how to make this swiper responsive. But let me show you a very quick way to make this swiper responsive. Let me just close these unwanted tabs, back to my website and open the main.js. To make this slider responsive, here I'm going to add another property. So I'm going to add here a comment and say responsive breakpoints. And then here I'm going to add a different breakpoints to this slider. So here I'm going to add a property called breakpoints and specify object to it. Inside this object, I'm going to specify different breakpoints to this slider. So here I'm going to say single quote at 0. So the viewport 0 in the object, I'm going to specify slides per view. I want 2 slides. So if the viewport is greater than 0, I want 2 slides per page. Just for that, here I'm going to specify comma and say here in the single quote, specify at 1.00. So specify colon, and in the object, I'm going to say slides per view and specify here 3. This means if the viewport is greater than 888 pixel, let me just add here a comment and say 888 pixel. If the viewport is greater than 888 pixel, I want to specify 3 slides to this slider. Just out of that, I'm going to specify comma here and then specify single quote at the sign 1.25. Then specify here object and then specify slides per view, and I want 4 slides per view. What I want to do, if the viewport is greater than 1110, I want to display 4 slides. So this means if the viewport is greater than 1110 pixel, I want to display 4 slides. Just down here, I'm going to create another breakpoint. So in the single quote, I'm going to say at 1.50, and to this breakpoint, I'm going to specify slides per view 5. So this means if the viewport is greater than 1330 pixel, I want to display 5 slides per page. If you're not able to understand what is the meaning of this statement, don't worry, there is a solution for it. You can specify pixel as well instead of this statement. Let me show you how to do it. So just open a new tab and open the swiper.js.com. Just click on the API and just scroll down. When you scroll down, you can notice somewhere here you have the breakpoints. You can notice here I have the breakpoint property, and I can specify breakpoints to this slider using the pixel or using this ratio. I'm using ratio to specify breakpoint to this slider. If you want, you can specify pixels as well. That's upon you. That's super easy to specify pixels. As you can notice here, save the changes, close this tab and open my website. And now let me just show you the responsiveness of this slider. Let me just change the viewport. You can notice how easy it is to make this slider responsive. Alright. Next, I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful footer of this website. Now, we all know that how to create this beautiful header. Let's take a look at how to create this beautiful footer of this website, where I'm going to create 3 columns and put different sections inside this footer. So I'm going to just back to my website. Inside the index.html, just after this swiper section, right down here, just after this main, here I'm going to create HTML5 comment and say footer. I'm going to copy this comment, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing footer. And inside this comment, I'm going to say footer, I'm going to specify ID to this footer, which is footer. And inside this footer, I'm going to create a division tag with a class container. And inside this container, I have a row, and inside that row, I have 3 column layout. You can notice here, I'm going to create a row and put these 3 columns inside that row. So I'm going to just create here a row class, and inside this, I'm going to create 3 columns. So I'm going to say here dot call 3. I'm going to specify class name to this div, which is call 3. So I'm going to create 3 columns here. That is why I specify here call 3. Copy this div, paste it down here and down here. So I'm going to just create the 3 columns inside this row. I'm going to specify styling to these classes after a few minutes. But just for now, just specify here MB3. So this will specify margin bottom to this division tag. And just out of that, in this first column, I'm going to just add this about us section. So inside this first column, here, I'm going to create H2 heading tag and specify about us. Save the changes. You can notice I have this about us here. Just out of that, let me just add some classes to it. So I'm going to say class footer title. Then I'm going to specify secondary title class. Save the changes. When I save the changes, this will add these classes to this H2 heading tag. Just out of that, just after this H2 heading tag, right down here, I'm going to create another div with the class secondary title and text secondary. I have both these classes in the global section, so I don't need to create that again. Now inside this div, I'm going to create a paragraph, and to this paragraph, I'm going to add some margin top. So here I'm going to say margin top 2. Inside this paragraph, here I'm going to add some content. So I'm going to just copy some content and paste it inside this paragraph like this. Or if you want to add some demo content, you can just specify here lorem and specify how many words you want to import from the lorem website. For example, let's say I want to import 5 words from that website. I'm going to just say here 5 and press enter. When I press enter, I'm going to have 5 demo words inside my project. So once I have my paragraph, just down here, I'm going to create address. I'm going to add address element of HTML, and inside it, I'm going to first add an icon. So here I'm going to say I, specify class to it to import icon. So here I'm going to say fast fa map marker alt. Now this is the name of the icon. You can find this icon in the font or some website. And just out of that, I'm going to specify text primary to it. This is going to specify color to this icon. Just out of that, just out of this I tag right here, I'm going to add address. So I'm going to just copy and paste some address here. And just out of this address right down here, I'm going to add a phone number. So here I'm going to say div with the class phone. And inside this phone, I'm going to add another icon. So I'm going to copy this I tag, paste it right here, and change this class. So I'm going to change it to FA mobile, and then inside this div right here, I'm going to specify mobile number. So I'm going to just copy and paste some demo mobile number here like this. And just out of that, just out of this div, I'm going to add email. So here I'm going to create a div with a class email, and inside it, I'm going to add an icon. So I'm going to copy this I tag, paste it here, and change this icon. I'm going to say FA envelope, and just out of that, here I'm going to add a demo email address. Save the changes. When I save the changes, you can notice down here I have my about section. Now let me just style this section and show you how to create 3 columns inside your footer section and make that columns responsive. Let me show you how to style this section and make this section completely responsive. So I'm going to just back to my project, and here let me first minimize my first column, and in the second column here I'm going to say column 2, and here I'm going to specify column 3. Let me save the changes, and just out of that, I'm going to back to the style.css, and up here inside this media query, I'm going to make this footer responsive. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to first create a row class, and to this row I'm going to specify display flex. So I'm going to select this row class, this one, and specify flex property to it. You can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. I have all these 3 columns in the same row. I'm going to create another media query. So I'm going to copy this media query and paste it here. And this is going to be a media query for 1024 pixel. And inside it, I'm going to just change the value of these 3 columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first create this column here. Up here I'm going to say call 3 and specify flex property to it. So I'm going to say here flex 0 0, and as you know I'm going to create 3 columns inside this footer. So I'm going to just divide 100 by 3. So the value is going to be 33.3333. I'm going to specify this value in percentage. We already learned that how to get this value. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify max width. Max width is going to be this value. Now because I'm creating 3 columns, that is why I specify here this value. Otherwise, if you want to create only 2 columns, you can specify 50% as well instead of specifying this value. Just out of that, I'm going to specify some right padding to it. So I'm going to say padding right 35 pixel and save the changes. When I save the changes, as you can notice, I'm going to have 33% width to all these 3 columns. Now just out of that, let me just add some margin to this footer. So up here, just out of this main section, I'm going to create here a comment and specify footer here. So this indicate this is the closing footer, and inside it I'm going to select my footer and specify some padding top to it, which is 4 em. This will add some top padding to this footer. You can notice. Just out of that, just down here, let me just make these columns responsive. So let me first open the inspect tool. Let me decrease this viewport. Now you can notice these columns are not completely responsive yet. So let me first make these columns responsive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some properties of these columns and make this column responsive. So what I'm going to do is, if the viewport is less than 1024 pixel, I want to specify 50% width to these columns. If the viewport is less than 1024 pixel, I want to specify 50% width to this column and add flex wrap property to the row. Let me show you what I want to do. Here in the media query of 1024 pixel, I'm going to first select this row, specify that here, and instead of display flex, right here I'm going to add flex wrap to wrap all this content, and I'm going to specify here wrap. Save the changes, and just down here I'm going to change the size of this column. So I'm going to copy this column, paste it down here, and instead of this value I'm going to specify here 50%. So I'm going to say here 50. Get rid of this padding because I'm not going to change it. Save the changes. As you can notice, I have only 2 columns if the viewport is less than or equal to 1024 pixel. If I increase the viewport, I have 3 columns here. If I decrease the viewport, I have 2 columns here. Just out of that, if the viewport is less than 768 pixel, I want to just display 1 column right here. Instead of 2 columns, I want to display only 1 column here. So I'm going to just back to my project, and here you can notice I have this media query 768 pixel. Inside it, I'm going to copy this column 3, and specify that here. And instead of 50%, right now I'm going to specify here 100%, and do the same for this max width as well, like this. Let me save the changes. As you can notice, I'm having only 1 column inside this footer. The column is now completely responsive. You can notice here, this column is now completely responsive. So once the viewport is greater than 768 pixel, I have 2 columns, and when the viewport is greater than 1024 pixel, I'm going to have 3 columns. You can notice. Once you understand how to add this about us section, let me show you how to add this feature post in the second column of this footer. So let me show you how to add it. Now, once you understand how to create this about us section in the footer section, let me show you how to create this feature post. So in my website, here in the second column, I'm going to create this feature post section. So I'm going to open the index.html, and in the second column right here, I'm going to first add the h2 heading tag and specify here feature post. And to this h2, I'm going to specify some classes. So I'm going to say here footer title, then specify secondary title. Just out of that, just out of this h2, right here, I'm going to say feature post. I'm going to create a division tag with the class feature post, and I'm going to specify flex item inside it. So here I'm going to say flex item. So inside this flex item, I'm going to add different post. So here I'm going to add my article with the class article, and inside this article right here I'm going to say deflex, and inside this deflex I'm going to first add an anchor tag to put my image inside it. So here I'm going to say img and select the asset folder and select the img9. You are free to specify any image here. I'm choosing img9 and specify class to it, and here I'm going to specify class object fit. I'm going to create this class in the CSS file in the global section, and just after that here I'm going to say padding x1. As you know, I don't have these classes in the global section. I'm going to create that at the end of this footer. Just after that, just after this image right down here, I'm going to create a division tag with the class padding x1 and create an anchor tag inside it to specify title. So here I'm going to paste my title of the article like this and specify class to it, which is text title and display to. As well as I'm going to change the color of this title. So here I'm going to say text dark. I'm going to specify the global class, which is text dark. Just after that, just out of this anchor tag, here I'm going to add a paragraph with some classes. So here I'm going to say class secondary title, then specify text secondary and display 3. And inside this paragraph, so I'm going to add here a span tag and wrap icon inside it. So I'm going to specify class var fa clock, specify color text primary, and inside this span tag right here I'm going to specify the date of the publish block. So here I'm going to say clock Wednesday, and as you can notice here I have the date here. I'm going to copy it and specify that here like this. Save the changes. You can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. Now once I have this result, let me just specify some styling to it. Let me first minimize it and specify styling to this feature post section. Save the changes. Back to the style.css, and here at the top I'm going to first create this object fit class, this one. So I'm going to just create that class in the global section. So up here in this global styling I'm going to create object fit, and to this object fit I'm going to specify max height is going to be 120 pixel and height is going to be 80 pixel. Just out of that, width is going to be 80 pixel and object fit is going to be fill. Save the changes. When I save it, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. Just out of that, let me just align all this content on the same line. To do that, here I'm going to create deflex class. Deflex, as you know, I have this class to this division tag right here. You can notice I have this deflex class, and to this deflex I'm going to say display flex, and as you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. Here inside this global section I'm going to create some global classes which I'm going to use in the next section. So here I'm going to first create that classes. So here I'm going to say justify content center. So here I'm going to say justify content center. Just after that, just down here I'm going to say justify content between. So here I'm going to say justify content space between. I'm going to just add some padding to it, to this flex item. So inside this global section down here I'm going to create my margin and padding classes. So here I'm going to say dot margin top 2, and inside it I'm going to say margin top is going to be 10 pixel, and down here I'm going to say margin top 3 and specify margin top which is 50 pixel. Just out of that, down here I'm going to say margin bottom which is 3 and specify margin bottom is going to be 30 pixel. Now you're free to specify any values to this margin properties. If you want to add more space, you can increase these values as well. That's upon you. Just out of that, here I'm going to create another global class for padding. So here I'm going to say dot padding x1. This class is used to specify left and right padding. So I'm going to say here padding left 5 pixel and padding right 5 pixel. Just out of that, I'm going to create another padding x class. So I'm going to say padding x2. So I'm going to just copy this padding left and padding right, paste it here and change this and specify here 20 pixel like this. Then just out of that, just down here I'm going to specify padding to the top and bottom. So here I'm going to say padding y1 and specify padding top 20 pixel and padding bottom 20 pixel. Just out of that, just copy this padding y, paste it down here, and just change this padding y1 to padding y2, increase this value to 30 pixel like this. Now let me just change this padding y1 to 10 pixel, padding y2, and here I'm going to say 20 pixel, and copy these global classes and specify that here, and padding y3 is going to be 30 pixel. That's correct. So if you want to specify left and right padding, then you can use this padding y, and if you want to specify left and right padding, you can use these padding x classes, and if you want to specify margin top, you can use this margin top global classes, and if you want to specify margin bottom, you can use this margin bottom global class. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the result what I want. I have space between this content. Now let me create my second and third article here. So inside this index.html, right here, I'm going to minimize this flex item, copy this div, paste it down here, and change this img to 1. Just out of that, I'm going to paste this division tag again, just down here, and this became 2. Let me save the changes. Now as you can notice, I have the result what I want. At the end, I want to add some space between this flex item. So I'm going to back to the style.css, and just down here in the footer section of this website, here I'm going to select the footer first, then select the feature post, and then select the flex item. And here I'm going to specify margin bottom 10 pixel. If you want, you can specify global classes to specify margin bottom to this flex item as well. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to specify this margin bottom using this flex item, because this will specify this margin to all my 3 articles. I don't need to manually specify the margin bottom global class to all my articles. Save the changes. This will just add some space here. You can notice the feature post column is successfully ready. Let's take a look at how to create this third column of this footer. Now let me just show you how to create this third column of this footer. Here inside this third column, I'm going to create tags of this website, and at the end I'm going to add these social icons and this copyright section. So let me show you how to add this section in this footer. So I'm going to back to my website and open the index.html, and inside this column 3 right here, I'm going to add h2 heading tag with title tags, and specify class to it, which is footer title and secondary title. Save the changes. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this title here. Just out of that, just out of this h2 heading tag, here I'm going to create a division tag with the class tags, and inside it I'm going to create a deflex class. As you know, I already have this class in my global section. I'm going to specify that to this div. Along with that, I'm going to specify flex wrap class. This class is going to specify flex wrap property to this division tag. Inside this div, I'm going to create different tags. So I'm going to wrap all my tags in the anchor tag. So when the user click on it, you can navigate the user to different page. So here I'm going to say anchor tag, and inside this anchor tag, I'm going to add my tag name. So here I'm going to say travel, and to this anchor tag, I'm going to specify some classes, my global classes. So here I'm going to say now link and btn and bglite. So these are my global classes. I'm going to specify to this anchor tag. Save the changes. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. So I'm going to just create some tags here. So I'm going to duplicate this line by pressing Shift Alt down arrow like this, and change this tag name. Here I'm going to create food. Then this became lifestyle. This became technology. This became fashion, and I'm going to save the changes. As you can see, I have the result something like this. Now just for that, just after these tags right down here, I'm going to create another h2 heading tag. So I'm going to copy this h2 heading tag, paste it here, and change these tags and specify here social. Here I'm going to add my social icons. So I'm going to say here social and add here a class margin top 2. I already created this global class in my global section, so I don't need to create this class again. Just out of this h2 heading tag, here I'm going to add my social icons. So I'm going to create here a div with the class tags and social. So inside this div, here I'm going to create a division tag with the deflex class and flex wrap class, and inside it I'm going to create my social icons. So I'm going to copy this anchor tag, paste it here, and instead of this travel, here I'm going to add my icon, the social icons. So here I'm going to add my I tag, and specify class to it. And here I'm going to first add my Facebook icon. So here I'm going to say fab fa Facebook f. So this will add a Facebook icon here. Save the changes. You can notice I have the Facebook icon here. Duplicate this statement and change these icons by changing this class name. Here I'm going to say fa Twitter. This became Instagram, and this became Dribble. Let me get rid of this last anchor tag from here. Save the changes. You can notice I have all my social icons here. Now let me create this flex wrap class and specify some border radius to it. If you like square design of these tags, you can leave this as it is, but I just wanted to add border radius to these tags. So I'm going to just back to the style.css, and here inside this footer, right down here, I'm going to select the footer first, then select tags, and inside it I have anchor tag. So to this anchor tag, I'm going to specify border radius, which is 40 pixel, and padding is going to be 10 pixel and 20 pixel. And just after that, here I'm going to say font size 15 pixel. So I'm going to just specify these three properties to these tags. Save the changes. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. This will add border radius and add some padding to these tags. Just after that, let me just wrap these items. So I'm going to back to my style.css and back to the top of this global section of this website right here. And as you know, I have this justify content and this flex properties. Here I'm going to add another class called flex wrap, and I'm going to specify flex wrap. When I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. This will just wrap all the content inside the division tag. I have the result what I want. At the end, I'm going to just add copyright section of this website. You can notice here, this is the simple copyright section of this website. So let me just add it at the bottom of this website. So to add the copyright section of this website, I'm going to just back to the index.html. Then I'm going to minimize this third column like this. And just out of this row right here, I'm going to create HTML5 command and say copyrights. And just down here, I'm going to say copyrights. I'm going to create a class copyrights, and inside it, I'm going to add a paragraph. And inside this paragraph, I'm going to just add a copyright symbol and say 2021. And in the anchor tag right here, I'm going to add daily tuition, the name of my channel. And just out of this anchor tag, here I'm going to say dash personal blog theme all rights reserved. That's it. And to this anchor tag, here I'm going to add a class text primary. So this will just change the color of this daily tuition name. Save the changes. As you can notice, I'm going to have this copyright section here. Let me just add some classes to this paragraph. So here I'm going to say class. I'm going to specify first text center to center this text, then specify text secondary and display to. Save the changes. I'm going to have the result what I want. Just after that, at the end, I'm going to just add some padding and the top border to this copyright section. So I'm going to back to the style.css, and in the footer section right here, I'm going to first select the footer, then select the copyrights, and inside it, I'm going to first add padding. Padding is going to be 10 pixel to the top and bottom and 0 for the left and right. Just out that, here I'm going to add border top, 2 pixel, solid, and color is going to be light. Save the changes. You can notice I have this light border here and have padding to this copyright section. That's it. The home page of this website is completely ready. If you inspect this page, you can notice this page is completely responsive for all the devices. Now, once you understand how to create this beautiful page, next I'm going to show you how to create article page of this website, where I'm going to create this beautiful article with this author, the previous and the next post, as well as we have the comment and leave comment section. So let me show you how to create this beautiful article page. Now we all know how to create this beautiful home section of this website. Now let's take a look at how to create this article page of this website. Inside this page, we're going to see how to create these article categories, this title, this meta section of this article, the thumbnail of the article, and then I'm going to display all the content of this article. And just down the article, we have the tags, then the author, and the previous and the next article. And I'm going to display the comments of the article, and then I'm going to add a form to leave a comment. So let's take a look at how to create this beautiful article page in this website. So I'm going to just back to the index.html page, and I'm going to open the Explorer. Inside this Explorer, here I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name that file article.html. You are free to specify any name to this file, that doesn't matter. I'm going to open the index.html and copy all the content from this file and paste it inside this article like this. Just like that, move to the top and minimize this header, this main section, and this footer. I'm going to leave this header and this footer as it is, and inside this main section here I'm going to change some content. So I'm going to get rid of this first blog post section from here and add my article section. So I'm going to create here HTML5 comment, and here inside this comment I'm going to say post content. Let me just copy this comment, paste it down here. This is the closing post content. So I'm going to say here section, and I'm going to specify class to it, which is container, and inside this container I'm going to create my article. So here I'm going to say article, specify ID to it, which is post, and inside this article I'm going to create different sections. So I'm going to first create the article headings. So here I'm going to create a class headings and text center. So I'm going to create a division tag here with the class headings and text center. Inside this heading I'm going to first create the categories. So here I'm going to say categories, or you can say category. Inside this category I'm going to create anchor tag with class now link. I already have this class in the global section, and just after that here I'm going to say travel. Just out of this category down here I'm going to create a title of this article. So here I'm going to create h2 heading tag and specify title. So I'm going to just paste a title here like this, and don't forget to specify classes to this h2 heading tag. So here I'm going to specify text title, text dark, and display 1. As you know, I already have both these classes in the global section, so I'm not going to create it again. Just out of this title right down here I'm going to create the meta section of this article. So here I'm going to say meta, and inside this meta I'm going to add this meta section. Here I'm going to add the author name, the published date of this article, and comments. So here I'm going to add anchor tag and specify class to it, link, then specify display 2, then specify text secondary, and padding x is going to be 1. And inside this anchor tag here I'm going to add I tag to import icons. So I'm going to say class fas fa user to add user icon and specify text primary. And just out of this icon here I'm going to specify the author name. So I'm going to just specify some demo author name here like this. I'm going to copy this anchor tag, paste it just down here, change this icon, and this time I'm going to use fa clock and change this author name, and here I'm going to specify the publish date of this article just like this. Just copy this anchor tag again, paste it down here to add comments. So here I'm going to change this icon as well. So here I'm going to say comments, and I'm going to specify hard-coded comment here 12. Save the changes, and now let me just open the article.html page. So instead of index I'm going to say here article.html. As you can notice I'm going to have the result something like this. Just after that I'm going to add the thumbnail of this article. So just down here, just after these headings right down here, I'm going to add the thumbnail of this website. So here I'm going to say thumbnail, and I'm going to add here division tag with the class thumbnail, and I'm going to add margin top 3 to it. And then here I'm going to add img with source attribute, and I'm going to specify first asset folder and my first image. Then to this img I'm going to specify class thumbnail. Save the changes. You can notice I have this thumbnail here. I'm going to specify class to this thumbnail in the global section of the styling. Just out of this thumbnail, right down here, I'm going to create another HTML5 command and say here content. Here I'm going to add content of this website. So I'm going to create a div with the class content, as well as I'm going to add some global classes to this division tag. Here I'm going to specify text dark, then specify display 2, then specify secondary title, and then I'm going to specify margin top 3. So these classes will save my time and I don't need to specify any individual styling to this content section. So I'm going to just add some content inside this division tag like this. Let me minimize this content, save the changes. When I save the changes, I have this content at the bottom of this website. You can notice here. Now, just out of that, let me just add styling to this article. So back to the style.css, and at the bottom, just out of this footer, here I'm going to add another comment and specify article page. So this is going to be the styling of the article page. Paste it down here and specify here the closing indication. So I'm going to first select the post, and to this post, you can notice I have this ID to this post. I'm going to select that, and here I'm going to specify some padding. I'm going to specify padding 0 to the top and bottom and 2 em to the left and right. Then add margin bottom 4 em. Save the changes. This will add some padding to this post, and just out of that, at the top in the global section right down here, I'm going to create a class called thumbnail, and to this class I'm going to specify width 100%, then specify height 500 pixel, and object fit is going to be cover. Let me save the changes, and when I save it, you can notice I have my thumbnail here. That's super easy, right? To specify styling to this content. Just out of that, let me create my author section just down here, just out of this content. So let me show you how to add this section at the bottom of your article. So at the bottom of the article, I'm going to add these article tags. Then I'm going to add the author information. At the bottom, I'm going to add the previous and the next post. And down here, I'm going to add the comments. And then we have the leave comment section. So I'm going to just add that just after the content. Just after this section, this article section, just down here, I'm going to add the post footer section right here, like this. Copy this command, paste it down here to indicate this is the closing post footer section. Inside this post footer, I'm going to create a class. So here inside this command, I'm going to say post footer. Along with that, I'm going to add margin bottom 3. So inside this div, I'm going to first create the post tags. So here I'm going to say post tags, and inside this post tag, I'm going to create my different post tags. So here I'm going to add anchor tag with class now link, btn, and bg light. So I have all these global classes in my global section, so I don't need to add styling to this anchor tag. Inside this anchor tag, I'm going to say travel. Let me duplicate this statement like this by pressing Shift Alt down key. Change this travel to food. This became lifestyle. This became technology, and this became fashion. Save the changes. Now what I want to center these tags and just add flex wrap property to it. So inside this post tags right here, I'm going to say deflex flex wrap and justify content center. Now this justify content center property is going to center all this content, and then I'm going to specify flex property to this content and specify flex wrap. Save the changes. I'm going to have the result something like this. Now once I have my article tags, let me just add here author section, this one. So let me just add this author section in my article. So just out of this post tag right down here, I'm going to create another div with the class post author and specify text center to it to center all the text. Inside this, I'm going to add author avatar, and inside this author avatar, I'm going to add the author image. So here I'm going to specify the asset folder, then select the face, and then select the face one. Just out of that, I'm going to specify class to it, which is rounded. And just after this division tag, right down here, I'm going to specify author info section. And I'm going to just specify padding by 2. Inside this author info, I'm going to add author information. So here I'm going to say h3 heading tag and specify author name, John Stephen, specify class to it, secondary, and secondary title. So I'm going to have these classes in the global section. I'm going to specify that and specify content inside this paragraph like this. So this is the author information. So I'm going to specify that inside this paragraph. And just down here, I'm going to add post tags. You can notice here, I have the social icons inside this author. So I'm going to just copy this post author section and paste it right here. Instead of this division tag, here I'm going to paste this post author like this. And just out of that, instead of this travel and this text, I'm going to add here icon. So instead of this travel, here I'm going to add I tag with class fab fa Facebook f. So this will just add Facebook icon. You can notice here. Just out of that, let me just do the same for all these anchor tags as well. Let me get rid of this anchor tags and get rid of this BG light and BTN button. Save the changes. So I'm going to have this standalone icon here. Let me duplicate these anchor tags like this. Change this Facebook. And here I'm going to add my social icon, which is Twitter. Then here I'm going to add my Instagram icon. And here I'm going to add my dribble icon. Save the changes. As you can notice, I have all these icons here. Now, just out of that, once I have this post author section, let me minimize it and specify styling to it. So here I'm going to first specify styling to this image. So here I'm going to create a global class, which is rounded. I already have this class to this image. So I'm going to say here height 120 pixel, then specify width, which is going to be 120 pixel, and then specify object fit, fill, and border radius is going to be 99 pixel. Save the changes. As you can notice, I have this border radius to this image. Just out of that, just down here inside my article section right here, inside this styling, right here I'm going to first select the post footer and then select post author. As you know, I have both these classes, this post footer and this post author. I'm going to select that and specify position relative, margin top is going to be 4 em, and background color is going to be light. Save the changes, and this will add background color to this section. Just after that, here I'm going to create the after pseudo selector of this post author. So I'm going to copy this post author selector, paste it down here, and create after pseudo selector of it like this. And inside this after pseudo selector, I'm going to say background color white, then specify content, which is null. Then I'm going to specify position absolute, and top is going to be 0 and left is going to be 0. Save the changes. I'm going to have the result something like this. Just out of that, I'm going to say height 4 em and z index is going to be 0. Just after that, just down here, I'm going to select this author again, this post author again, and then select the author avatar. And to this post author avatar, I'm going to say margin 0 to the top and bottom, auto to the left and right. Then I'm going to specify margin bottom 1 em and position is going to be inherit. Then specify z index 1. Save the changes. I'm going to have this result. Oops, I think I misspelled something. Yeah, right here. I just forgot to add right property to this after pseudo selector. So here I'm going to say right 0. When I save the changes, as you can notice, I'm going to have my author section. So this will just easily create this author section of this post. Next, I'm going to show you how to create this previous and the next post. Then we're going to see how to create these comments and this leave comment section. So let's see how to create this beautiful section of this article. So once we understand how to create this author section of this website, let's take a look at how to create this previous and this next post. So I'm going to just back to my website, and as you know, I have this author post section. Just down here, I'm going to create HTML5 comment and say post related. Here I'm going to create post related content. So here I'm going to create a division tag with the class post related. And as well as I'm going to specify padding by 2 to add top and bottom padding to this div. Just down here, I'm going to create a new row and specify justify content center. Now this class is going to specify display flex to this div, and justify content center is going to center all the content. Inside this div, I'm going to create a previous class. So I'm going to say here previous, and inside this previous, I'm going to create a div again with padding by 2. And right here, I'm going to add an anchor tag with some classes. So I'm going to specify class display 2 and text dark. Inside this anchor tag, I'm going to add an icon and specify class to it to import icons. Fast FA chevron left. So I'm going to add here an icon, and here I'm going to specify previous post. Save the changes. Let me back to my website, and here I'm going to have previous post link. Just after that, just after this div, right down here, I'm going to create my article, my previous article. So here I'm going to say article and specify class article. And to this article, I'm going to specify text center to center all the text. And inside this article, I'm going to say deflex, and I'm going to specify here anchor tag. And inside this anchor tag, I'm going to add an image. So when the user click on the image, I can navigate user to the different page. So just down here inside this source attribute, here I'm going to specify assets and then specify img 9. You are free to choose any image here, that doesn't matter. And just after that, here I'm going to specify class to this img, which is object fit. I already have this global class in my style.css file, so I'm not going to create it again. Now just after that, just after this anchor tag, right down here, I'm going to create card body. So here I'm going to say card body and specify padding x 1. Now inside this, I'm going to create a category. So here I'm going to say category, and inside this category, I have an anchor tag with some classes. So here I'm going to add a class link text primary to add color to this category, and say text secondary to add font family. And to this category, I'm going to say fashion. You are free to choose any category here, that doesn't matter. And here I'm going to add an anchor tag again and specify my title of the article. So let me just add here a title of this article like this. And to this anchor tag, I'm going to specify class text title display 1 and text dark. Let me save the changes, and here you can notice I have the result something like this. Now just after that, as you can see, my previous article is now ready. Let me copy this div and paste it down here, and then specify here next. This indicates this is the next article. I'm going to change this image, and here I'm going to specify img 8 like this, and this became, and the previous post became next post. And then I'm going to change this crayon left, and this became crayon right. I'm going to change this icon, this text, and this image. Save the changes. Here you can notice I'm going to have my next post. But what I want this text on the right of this window. So here to this next, I'm going to specify text right. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this next post on the right of this document. But now just after this next, I want this icon. So I'm going to just grab this icon and paste it after this next post like this. For an exercise, you have to put this left image on the right side of this next post. This is going to be a very simple exercise for you. So I'm going to leave this as it is. That's it. That's super easy, right? To create this next and this previous post. Next, let me show you how to create this comment section of this website. Now, let's take a look at how to create this beautiful comment section of this website. So I'm going to just back to my website, and just after this related post, this post related, just down here, I'm going to create the comment section. So here I'm going to say comments, and just down here, I'm going to create a division tag with the class post comments. As well as I'm going to specify padding by 2. This will add top and bottom padding to this division tag. Just inside this div, I'm going to create h3 heading tag and specify 5 comments. You are free to choose any number here. Just out of that, I'm going to specify class text center to center this text. Then I'm going to specify display 1 to change the font size. Then I'm going to say secondary title. This will just change the font family of this text, and I'm going to say padding by 2. So this will add top and bottom padding to this h3 heading tag. When I save the changes, here you can notice I'm going to have this comment inside my website. Just out of that, just out of this h3 heading tag, here I'm going to create comment details section. And just out of that, inside this comment details, I have comment items. This is my comment item. So this is my first comment item, and this is the second, and this is the reply of this comment. So I'm going to create that. So here I'm going to create comment details. Inside it, I'm going to say comment item and specify padding by 2. Inside this div, I'm going to say dflex, and inside this flex, I'm going to say avatar and specify padding x 2. Here I'm going to create a dflex class because I want to put everything on the same row. So I'm going to add here an avatar of comment writer. So here I'm going to say img, specify asset, then specify face folder, and then here I'm going to select my first face, and then I'm going to specify class here, rounded. You can notice I'm using the same global class again to add this image. When I save the changes, I'm going to have that image here. Just out this avatar, just down here, I'm going to add the comment detail. So here I'm going to say comment content. You can notice how I'm using these global classes to create each section. I'm not repeating myself by creating a styling for this individual section. Instead, I'm using all the global classes to create these sections. Just out that, inside this comment content, here I'm going to create h5 heading tag and specify comment writer name. So I'm going to specify here a demo name and specify class to this h5 heading tag, which is display2, and save the changes. Just out of that, just out of this h5, right down here, I'm going to create a paragraph with class title secondary. Then I'm going to add text dark, and inside this paragraph, I'm going to add some demo text. So this is the comment of the comment writer. I'm going to have the result something like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove margin from these headings. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to create a global class called margin 0. Save the changes, back to the style.css and back to the top and open the global section. Here is the global section, and just out of this margin bottom, here I'm going to create a class margin 0 and say margin 0. I'm going to remove all the margin. You can notice this will remove all the margin. Now just out of that, let me back to the article, and as you can see, I have my first comment item ready. Just out of this comment item, I want to display the comment reply as well. So just out of this dflex, right down here, I'm going to create here comment reply, and here I'm going to say reply and add padding by 2. So I'm going to create a class here reply and specify padding by 2, and then inside it I'm going to say dflex to align content on the same line, and then I'm going to create an avatar here. So I'm going to copy this avatar and paste it down here. Just change this avatar to face 2, and then I'm going to copy this content, this comment content, and paste it just out of this div like this. Save the changes. As you can see, I have the result what I want. Now let me just back to the style.css, and down here inside my post section, right down here, I'm going to select the post footer, then select the post comments, and then select reply, and I'm going to add padding left to it. Padding left is going to be 7 em. Save the changes. As you can see, this will add padding to this reply section. Just out of that, let me create another command. So I'm going to copy this comment item. So I'm going to just copy this div, minimize this comment item, and just out of this comment item right down here, I'm going to create another comment item. So here I'm going to say comment item and specify padding by 2. Inside this comment item, I'm going to paste the dflex division tag. So I'm going to paste that inside this div like this and change this phase 1 to phase 3. And then I'm going to save the changes. When I save the changes, as you can notice, I'm going to have my second comment writer as well. So as you can notice how easy it is to create this comment section of this website. Next, let me show you how to create this leave comment section inside your website. So let me show you how to create it. Now, let me show you how to create this beautiful leave comment section in your website. I'm going to back to my grid blog and open my project and just minimize this comment item, and just after this comment details, just down here, I'm going to create my comment form. So here I'm going to create HTML5 comment and say comment form. So here I'm going to create first a division tag with comment form class, and inside it I'm going to say deflex to align all the content on the same line, then specify justify content between, and then I'm going to specify flex wrap. Now inside this div, I'm going to add all my input items. But before I add that, let me just add a title for this comment section. So let me just add here h3 heading tag and specify leave comment. And then I'm going to specify here some classes to this h3 heading tag. So I'm going to say here text center, then I'm going to say display 1, then I'm going to specify secondary title and padding by 2. Save the changes. As you can see, I have this leave comment here. Just down here inside this div, I'm going to add the form control items. So here I'm going to create the input tag. It is a type of text, and then I'm going to specify class to it, which is form control. And then I'm going to specify placeholder name. I'm going to duplicate this input tag like this and change this type, and this is a type of email. I'm going to leave everything as it is and change this placeholder, and here I'm going to say email. Then I'm going to leave this type as it is. This class is going to be form control and name is going to be website. Just down here, just out of this div, right down here, I'm going to add text area. I'm going to just get rid of these columns, this ID and name from this text area, and I'm going to specify here placeholder, which is going to be message, and I'm going to just add some classes to this text area. So I'm going to say here class form control and margin top 3. Save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have the result something like this, and just out that at the bottom, I'm going to add the submit button. So just out of this text area, just down here, I'm going to add a division tag with the class text center, and here I'm going to add a button and specify submit. And to this button, I'm going to specify some classes. Here I'm going to add btn, the global btn class. Then I'm going to say btn primary, and then I'm going to add display to text light to specify background color, and say here margin top 2. Save the changes. As you can see, I have my button here which has all the global classes. Just out of that, let me just style this form. So let me back to this style.css, and down here I'm going to specify styling to it. I'm going to create a class called form control. As you know, I already have the class to all my input elements. So here I'm going to first specify width. Width is going to be 100%. Then I'm going to add here border 2 pixel solid and specify here border. Here I'm going to add padding. Padding is going to be 1 em and save the changes. So this will add a top, left, right and bottom padding. Just down here, I'm going to specify font size 18 pixel and then specify margin right 10 pixel. Just down here, I'm going to specify font family, which is Poppins, and specify fallback value sans serif. Save the changes. As you can see, I have the result what I want. Oops, I think I misspelled something inside the text area. I just misspelled the spelling here of this class. It's form control. Save the changes. As you can see, I have my leave comment section completely ready. The article page is now completely ready. Isn't it really simple to create this complete page? Now, once you understand how to create this beautiful article page, let me show you how to create this article page with a sidebar. I'm going to show you how to create this beautiful article page with this sidebar. Now, once you understand how to create this beautiful article page, let me show you how to add sidebar to it. So I'm going to just back to my website and I'm going to create a new file to add this sidebar. So inside my project, I'm going to create a new file called sidebar.html, and I'm going to put all the code of this article. So I'm going to copy all this code and paste it inside my sidebar.html file right here like this. And I'm going to minimize all the sections first. Let me minimize the header, this main section, and this footer. Now I'm going to leave this. Now I'm going to leave everything as it is, but at this time I'm going to add the sidebar inside my project, and I'm going to show you how to make your project completely responsive with the sidebar. So let me show you how to add this sidebar. Now if you just take a look at this layout, then you can notice I have two columns here inside my container. This is my first column and this is the second one. So let me just create two columns first inside my main section to create this sidebar. So inside this main, here I'm going to just create two columns inside this post content. So here, just out of this section, just out of this container, right down here, I'm going to create two columns. So here I'm going to create a division tag with the class layout2. You can specify any class name to this div, that doesn't matter. And then I'm going to specify a row class to it. I'm going to create two columns here. So first column is a col 8, and then I'm going to create my second column with col 4. So I'm going to specify 8 column space to this div and 4 column space to this second div. Now you're free to choose any class name to this division tag. This is just for understanding. Inside this first column, as you know, I have all this content. So let me copy this content and put that inside my first column. But just for now, let me say here column 1. And I'm going to just add here in the second column, I'm going to say column 2. Let me just save the changes and open the sidebar.html. So here I'm going to say sidebar.html. When I open it, you can notice I have here column 1 and column 2. Right now, I don't have any space to these columns. So let me specify that first, and then I'm going to add this content inside that column. So I'm going to back to the style.css, and just down here at the bottom of this style sheet, as you can see, I have this media query. So here I'm going to create these columns. As you can notice, I have here column 3. Let me create column 4 and column 8. I'm going to first create column 8. So here I'm going to say column 8, and to this column 8, I'm going to simply specify flex 0, 0, and specify 70% width to this column like this, and then specify max width 70%. Then I'm going to create another column which is column 4, and then here I'm going to copy both these properties, paste it inside this column 4, and I'm going to specify 30% width to this column 4. You can notice 70 plus 30 is equal to 100%. So from the 100% width, I'm going to just specify 30% width to this 4 column and 70% width to this 8 column. Let me save the changes. As you can see, this will just take 100% width of this container. Just out of that, let me make these columns responsive. So just down here, as you can see, I have these media queries. Let me make this column responsive. So if the viewport is less than 1024 pixel, just down here, I'm going to select my column 8 and change flex property. So I'm going to copy this flex property of column 8, paste it down here, and now I'm going to just specify 100% width to this column if the viewport is less than 1024 pixel. And I'm going to do the same for this column 4 as well. So down here I'm going to say column 4, and I'm going to paste this flex property and specify 100% like this. And now let me show you these columns are responsive or not. You can notice here we have two columns on the same row. As you can see, I have two columns here. So now this columns is now completely responsive. Let me just add content inside it. Let me just back to my sidebar.html, get rid of this column 1, minimize this article, this post footer, and cut it right from here and specify that inside this column 8 like this. Let me minimize it, save the changes. I have this article in 70% width. Just out of that, inside this second column, I'm going to add my sidebar. So you can notice here I have this sidebar. So let me just add some content inside this sidebar. Now inside this sidebar, I'm going to create two sections. First is for categories and second is a trending post. So let me show you how to create this category section inside your sidebar. So I'm going to open the column 4, and right here I'm going to add a side HTML element and specify here ID sidebar. A side element is usually used to create a sidebar. So I'm going to use that aside element. Inside this aside, I'm going to create 2 sections. So first I'm going to create the category section. So I'm going to create HTML5 command and say categories. And just down here, I'm going to say section for categories. So I'm going to create a class categories, and then inside this section here I'm going to create h2 heading tag with the title categories and specify class to it. Class is going to be text center and text dark. Save the changes. When I back to my website, you can notice I'm going to have my categories here. Just out of this h2 heading tag right down here, I'm going to create my different categories. So inside the anchor tag, I'm going to specify my categories. So here inside this anchor tag, I'm going to create a span tag and specify design. Then create another span tag and specify here 5. So I have 5 posts of the design category. Save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have this design 5. Let me just add some classes to this anchor tag. I'm going to specify class deflex, then specify justify content between, and then I'm going to specify text dark. Let me save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have space between both these span tag. That is because of this justify content between class. Now let me just copy this anchor tag and then I'm going to style it. So let me copy it and specify that here and change some content here. So I'm going to say here graphic and change this value as well. I'm going to specify 8. Then paste this anchor tag again. This became illustration. Specify blog post 3. Paste the anchor tag again, and this became fashion. I have 2 fashion blog posts. So here I'm going to say 2. Let me save the changes. I'm going to have all the categories. Let me style it. So I'm going to back to the style.css, and just up here, just out of this article page, I'm going to create my sidebar. So here I'm going to copy and paste this command, and here I'm going to say sidebar. So this indicates this is the starting of the sidebar styling. So I'm going to paste this command here and specify dot like this. So the very first thing I'm going to just specify first, I'm going to first select the sidebar. As you know, I have this ID to this sidebar. I'm going to select that, and inside it I'm going to specify some padding to it. Padding is going to be 0 to the top and bottom and 0.2 em to the left and right. Let me simplify this styling. As you know, I already have global classes, so I'm not going to specify the styling here. Instead, I'm going to just back to the sidebar, and here I'm going to specify class padding x 1. Save the changes. This will add left and right padding to this sidebar. I'm going to get rid of this sidebar from here, and I'm going to now select categories. So I'm going to say here sidebar categories and select all my anchor tags. Just down here, I'm going to add some padding to the anchor tags. Padding is going to be 1 em to the top and bottom and 3 em to the left and right. Then font size is going to be 18 pixel. I'm going to add margin bottom 1 em, and background color is going to be light. Just out of that, let me add some border radius to it. Border radius is going to be 99 pixel. Save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have the result what I want. Just out of that, I want to create an hover effect on these categories. So I'm going to copy this selector, paste it down here, and create an hover effect on it. So here I'm going to say hover, and when I hover on these anchor tags, I want to change the background color of it. So let me just copy this background color property, specify that here, and instead of this light, I'm going to specify here primary color. So when we hover on the categories, I want this primary color, as well as I'm going to change the color of these categories, and I'm going to specify light color here. Save the changes. Here you can notice I'm going to have this hover effect on these categories. That's super easy, right? Let me show you how to create this trending post section. Now let's take a look at how to create this beautiful trending post section inside your sidebar. I'm going to back to my website, and right down here I'm going to create this trending post section. So I'm going to open the sidebar.html, minimize this category section, and just down here I'm going to create HTML5 command and say trending post. So here I'm going to create a new section with trending. To this trending post, I'm going to add some margin top 3. So this will just add some margin. Inside this section, I'm going to create h2 heading tag with some classes. But first let me add here title trending post, and I'm going to just add here class which is text center to center this text, text dark to change the color of this title, and say padding y2. This will add top and bottom padding to this h2 heading tag. Save the changes. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this title here. You can notice. Just out of that, let me add here post items. So you can notice here inside my finished website I have different posts inside this trending post. Let me just specify that inside post item class. So here I'm going to create a simple HTML5 comment and say post items. So just out of this comment, I'm going to create a division tag with the class post item with padding y1. This will add top and bottom padding to this div. Here I'm going to create article of the class article, and inside this article I have a deflex class to align all the content, and inside this I have an anchor tag. Inside this anchor tag I'm going to create my img, the image of the post, and inside the source attribute I'm going to specify the asset folder, and I'm going to select my first img image. Then I'm going to specify class rounded. You can notice I'm using the same styling third time. I'm not going to repeat myself to create individual styling to this section. Instead, I'm going to create a global class and specify that styling to the section where I need that styling. Save the changes. Here I'm going to have that first image. Here I'm going to add card body and specify a division tag with categories. So here I'm going to create a division tag with the class trending category. And inside this trending category, I'm going to add my category. So here I'm going to add an anchor tag. And inside this anchor tag, I'm going to say typography. And here I'm going to say fashion. Just out of that, I'm going to specify some classes to this anchor tag. So I'm going to say here link and text primary. Let me save the changes. Here I'm going to have my anchor tag. Just out of that, just out of this div, right down here, I'm going to create an anchor tag and specify title of my article. So let me copy this title, paste it here. So this is the title of this article. Don't forget to specify classes to it. Text title, display 2, and text dark. When I save the changes, I'm going to have this title here. Just out of that, just out of this anchor tag right down here, I'm going to add here a paragraph. And inside this paragraph, I'm going to add a span tag. And inside this span, I'm going to import the icon of this clock and add this date. So I'm going to just add here a date of the published post. So let me first add here an icon. I'm going to add an I tag with the class far fa clock. And then I'm going to specify color to this icon, which is text primary. And just out of this icon, here I'm going to add the published date of this icon. Save the changes. I have the published date of this icon. Let me add some styling to this paragraph. So here I'm going to specify class. Class is going to be secondary title, then specify text secondary, and then specify display 3. Let me save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have the result what I want. Just out of that, let me just add space between this image and this title. So to this image, I'm going to specify padding x1. So this will add left and right padding to this image. Save the changes. And as you can see, I have some space here. You can notice if you want to increase the space, you can specify padding x2. When you save the changes, you can notice you're going to have the result of what you need. But I'm going to just add here padding x1. Just out of that, let me just duplicate this section to create multiple trending posts. So let me just minimize this post item, copy this post item, paste it down here, change this image, and now I'm going to specify img2, minimize this div, just paste it again, change this image. Here I'm going to specify img3, paste it again, and now I'm going to specify img4. Let me save the changes. And as you can see, I have my trending post section ready. I hope you understand how to create this beautiful sidebar in your project. Now at the end, let me show you how to make this navigation menu sticky and add some shadow to this navigation menu. Now let me show you how to add shadow to this navigation menu, and as well as I'm going to show you how to make this navigation menu sticky to the top of this website. So when you scroll down, you can see the navigation menu is stick to the top of this website. Let me show you how to create this sticky navigation menu in your website. So let me just back to my website and let me first add a shadow to this navigation menu. So inside the global section at the top right here, inside this global section, I'm going to create a class called shadow. And here I'm going to add box shadow property and specify color to this shadow. So I'm going to simply specify RGB color to it. So I'm going to first specify the red color, which is 149, then specify the green color 157, and this is going to be the blue color 165, and the alpha color is going to be 0.2. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify 0 pixel, 8 pixel, and 24 pixel. So these are the value of this box shadow. Save the changes. As you can see in my website, I have my shadow here. Now let me just make this navigation menu sticky. What I want to do is, when I scroll down at this position, I want to stick navigation menu at the top of this website. To do that, I'm using JavaScript. So let me just back to my main.js file, and just down here I'm going to create the sticky navigation. So I'm going to first get the value of the current navigation. So I'm going to say here get the current value, and here I'm going to say let navbar is equal to document dot get element by id, and as you know, I have header id to the navbar, so I'm going to select that. So this statement is going to return the header element to this navbar, and then I'm going to get the position of this navbar. So here I'm going to create a command and say get the navbar position. To get the position of navbar, I'm going to just say here navbar dot offset top. So the offset top property is going to return the current position of your navbar. Once you have your current position, let's store it in a variable let sticky, and I'm going to just store this offset value inside this sticky variable. Just out of that, let me add a class to this navbar when I scroll down. I'm going to just add a sticky class to the navbar when I reach its scroll position, and I'm going to just remove this sticky class when I leave the scroll position. So let me show you how to do it. Here I'm going to say command and say sticky function, and here I'm going to create a simple JavaScript function. So I'm going to say here function my function. You can name this function anything, that doesn't matter. And inside this function, I'm going to say if window dot page y offset. I'm going to just simply compare this value, this sticky value, with this window y offset. This is going to return the vertical offset of this window. So I'm going to just compare that, and if it is greater than or equal to the sticky this value, then I'm going to execute this if statement, otherwise execute this else statement. So when you scroll down, it will just execute this if statement, and when you scroll up, it will execute this else statement. So here inside this if statement, I'm going to say navbar dot class list, and I'm going to add a simple class called sticky, and when I scroll up, I'm going to just remove this class. So down here inside this else, I'm going to say navbar dot class list dot remove, and inside this remove, I'm going to say sticky. So when I scroll up, I want to remove this class, and when I scroll down, I want to add this class to the navbar, to this header. Let me save the changes, and let me create this class in my style.css, because as you know, I don't have this class in my style sheet. So let me create that first. So just down here, I'm going to create a new section for this styling. So just after this sidebar section, down here, I'm going to create a sticky styling. So here I'm going to say sticky, just copy it, paste it down here to indicate this is the sticky styling of this navbar, and here I'm going to create that class. So I'm going to simply say here sticky, and I'm going to specify position fix, then specify top is going to be 0, z index is going to be 99, and then I'm going to specify width 100%. Let me save the changes and back to the main.js. Now let me just execute this my function. So here at the top, I'm going to simply say window dot on scroll. I'm going to create an event of window on scroll. So when I scroll down, I want to execute a function. So this on scroll property takes a function as an argument, and I'm going to specify function here. So I'm going to just call my function, this one, my function inside this function, like this. Now this property is going to take a function as an argument, so I'm going to specify that, and I'm going to call my function inside this function. So when I scroll down, I'm going to execute this function. Save the changes. When I scroll down, I'm going to have my sticky navigation. That's super easy, right? Now, let me just show you this page is responsive for the mobile devices or not. You can notice this page is completely responsive for all the devices. Now let me increase this viewport. Oops, you can notice there is a problem here. I want to add some margin here. When the viewport is less than 992 pixel, I want to add some margin here. If the viewport is less than or equal to 992 pixel, I want to add some top margin to this content, to the side main. And as you know, I have this media query. Inside this media query, I have 992 pixel viewport. Right here, I'm going to select the side main. And here I'm going to specify margin top 14 EM. When I save the changes, as you can see, I'm going to have the result what I want. When I increase the size of the viewport, here you can notice I have the result what I want. Now what I want when the viewport is less than 574 pixel, I want to remove this margin and specify different margin to it, to this main section. So I'm going to copy this class, and if the viewport is less than or equal to 574 pixel, I'm going to just paste this class here and change this margin and specify here 6. Save the changes, and as you can see, I have the result what I want. So now you can see the sidebar.html page is now completely ready. In this website, we created 3 pages. First is this index page. Second is the article page. And third is a sidebar page. So I hope you learned many new things from this website. Don't forget to click on the like button. If you find anything useful, don't forget to click on the subscribe for more latest videos of programming. And if you have any question, don't forget to comment down below. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one.